Welcome to the 31st episode of The Smartest People in the Room. If you've been following this series, you understand what we are doing, shining a light on incredibly smart, accomplished people and helping them share stories from their past careers, their lives, as well as anecdotes about their past, present, and future. Today, I'm thrilled to present two really interesting cats from Nashville. One is a good friend of mine and someone I placed into his current job. The other is a well-known architect of one of Nashville's coolest live music showcase events. Both of these guys know how to draw a crowd and put on big shows. And I am pleased to shine a light on both of them and the great work they are doing to promote music and motorsports. Before we get started, let me take care of a little bit of business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work that they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a little bit more nuanced. Some of you may know that I am a music industry headhunter. By definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones. And ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible during the interview. I want to thank our sponsors, for without their support, I couldn't do what I do. I want to thank First Horizon Bank, Bufkin Baker, Four Roses Bourbon, the Fairlane Hotel, Core Power Yoga, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Lightning 100, Tennessee Brew Works, Moo TV, Jive Printing, Project Music, and also Organics. Now let's get today's show started. Today's interview is Ward Guenther. Ward arrived in Nashville in the summer of 2003 after finishing college at the University of Tennessee. For the first several years, he wrote, sang, tended bar, and visited 48 states while touring with Billy Currington. After settling down with his wife to start a family in 2011, Ward started Whiskey Jam, a fresh take on the traditional but often predictable Nashville Writers' Night. The timing was perfect. The music scene was ripe for change. Ward's unique perspective of the music and the bar scenes in Nashville, combined with his knowledge of the talented but undiscovered musicians continually coming to Nashville, proved to be a winning combination. As Whiskey Jam approaches its 10th anniversary, its audiences, its list of performers, and its popularity only continue to grow, thanks to Ward's tireless efforts to keep the event as unique and exciting as when it first began. In August 2020, Apple Music changed the streaming landscape by launching a multi-station radio platform, including Apple Music Country. Ward is one of 4 anchors hosting daily shows and weekend specials featuring the freshest country music and talent from Nashville and beyond. Welcome, Ward.
Thank you.
And joining Ward as today's special guest is Jason Rittenberry. Jason brings 20 years of executive level motorsports and entertainment industry experience to the Music City Grand Prix and currently serves as Chief Operating Officer of Nashville's newest international event, as well as Executive Vice President of Moo TV. In addition to his roles with Music City Grand Prix and Moo TV, Jason has a production company called MSG Strategy, where he serves as managing partner. With one of the most diverse motorsports backgrounds in the industry, Jason has served in C-level roles and promoted events at the highest level of motorsports in the world. He is the former Chief Strategy Officer for Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, where he promoted the Formula One United States Grand Prix, the MotoGP Grand Prix of the Americas, the NTT Indy Car Series, as well as some of the largest names in music, including Elton John, Taylor Swift, and others. Prior to COTA, Jason was president and CEO of IRG Sports Entertainment, the parent company of multiple venues and racing series. He also served as president and general manager of the Memphis Motorsports Park for 10 years. He has served on many boards and industry associations, including sports authorities in 4 different markets. Please welcome these 2 amazing entrepreneurs to the smartest people in the room. Take it away, boys.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Well, here we are.
All right.
I've been looking forward to this, man. Let me get it to where I can see the chat. I want to make sure it's on my screen. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while. For everybody viewing, thank you for joining us. I host a show in Nashville called Whiskey Jam and have for almost 10 years. And in the summer times we do, or the better weather months, we'll do outdoor shows. And Jason and I, well, I guess that's a good place to start. How did we cross paths? I was trying to think back. Did you become aware of Whiskey Jam?
I think so. Yeah. I think I was a fan of Whiskey Jam and started coming, and I'm not sure how we met, probably through Steve. When I left Circuit of the Americas and came back to Nashville, started MSG Strategy, was looking to find events to produce and promote. And I think Steve introduced us and said, "Hey, this is Ward." And I knew you obviously from Whiskey Jam. And then from there, we just became friends and started doing business together.
Right, because I recognized your name from I was shipping out all the merchandise myself, and so I was in the basement of my house or sitting on the sofa with my wife, and in the early years of what we were doing, shipping out every hat and t-shirt that we got. And so I knew like where people lived, and you recognize names. It was really kind of very organic way to get to know your fans and the people that are really actually participating and purchasing the lifestyle. So it was fun to then, as we've grown in our relationship, whatever, just Jason has put on the majority of our outdoor shows the last few years at Losers. And you're talking for like a Midtown Monday night in Nashville, getting 2,000 people out for these shows. We had Dierks Bentley as the Hot Country Nights, Cadillac 3, Clay Walker, Midland, Luke Combs. Yeah, it's funny because these shows are so good, but they're almost so we're so used to it. It's funny, we started back Whiskey Jam last week at Winners, and it's much different. Seated, capacity restriction, mask ordinances, everything by the book, so we can stay open longer. I mean, just doing our best. And I don't want to rank any talent, but I'm purposely not seeking out the Luke Combs to come play those shows because I don't want to have people unhappy, whatever. But it just blows me away because even last night with some friends, and I mean, you got artists that are on playlists and have professional, they have deals of some sort, publishing, management. It's all so great, It doesn't have to be a Luke Combs in a 2,000 person party in the parking lot. I don't know, kind of got off there, but I'm interested in getting to that point, and also the future for you. But from your story, what you've sent me, I was curious. So you went to college in Memphis.
I did. We were both in Memphis at one point in our life.
Right. I was wondering what years you were there.
I moved there in '93 to go to school.
Okay.
And I was there until 2009. So I spent 16 years in Memphis.
Okay. So that's so funny. My dad worked at the University of Memphis. We lived down the street from it. You and I were living in the same town, doing the same, or not doing the same stuff, but so close to each other. And then it just took 20 years later to link up in business.
Yeah, we probably weren't doing the same thing. You were probably in like elementary school when I was in college. But
right, when you got to college, I was at the elementary school that was attached to the University of Memphis. It was called Campus School. And
I'm very familiar with the campus school. I know right where you were.
That's a trip. So yeah, that leading you to, and so it says here, worked in the wireless industry through college and after graduation. Is this? I want to see like the roots of how this all began. Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's when I say I worked in the wireless industry, I sold cell phones. So it was very basic. It was cell phones in the mall. So that's really how I started my career through college. I worked my way through college doing that. worked for Cellular One back in the day, selling cell phones, and stayed with them when I graduated. When I originally went to school, my plan was to go to law school. After 4 years at the university, I decided that 4 years more of school did not sound like fun to me. And so after graduated, I just stayed in the wireless industry, did that for a couple of years. And, that's really how I got into what I'm doing today. It's was totally by coincidence. I wasn't looking to be in motorsports. My dad was a NASCAR fan. I grew up a fan of motorsports, but never dreamed that, I'd be working in motorsports or entertainment or music or any of this really. I was a sponsor of the racetrack there. Memphis Motorsports Park was a NASCAR track. And I was a sponsor of the track, and, I was meeting with them and working with them on races and events, and ended up going to work there. I started as a director of sales and marketing. And then by some crazy chance, 6 weeks later, the plane shows up from the corporate office in Dover, Delaware, unannounced one day, and the executives walk in the front door, and that general manager's not there anymore. And so here I am, 25 years old, fresh out of school a few years. Been in the motorsports business 6 weeks, and they offered me the job. So I am now the vice president and general manager of a NASCAR track at 25 years old, and have no clue what I'm doing.
That's crazy. It's not to take the focus off, but when I got into the radio gig that I'm doing now, I was like, guys, I've never done radio in my life. I don't know where to even start. And they were led on. They're like, that's kind of the point. As we're building this new thing, we don't want the typical radio personality. We want what you're doing. So I feel like that was probably the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, this guy does not work. This young man seems ambitious. Let's see if he can't possibly mess it up as bad as the last guy.
I think that was probably a lot of it. I think they saw something in me that, they did see the drive and ambition and, sales ability. And I knew the Memphis market. That's really the one thing I think that they were looking for at the time. They had hired somebody that not necessarily was from that market, didn't have the connections. And while I'd only been there from college on a few years, I had made quite a few connections in the area, whether it be the Chamber of Commerce, the Sports Commission, the Chamber Convention and Visitors Bureau, all of those things that they needed to be tied into and connected to. I had those relationships. And so I think they were looking at that more than they were my experience. And the CEO told me after he hired me, he said, we knew we could mold you into being a manager of a venue, of a motorsports track. But what we needed was the connections in Memphis and somebody that really wanted to take this venue to the next level, because they had just started NASCAR. Literally a year before they hired me was the first NASCAR race there.
Wow. Where was that in Memphis? I was totally unaware of NASCAR growing up.
It was in Millington, so it was just off of Paul Barrett Parkway out there in Millington.
Right.
It was probably most of the time when you were growing up, it was just a little dirt track and a drag strip.
Gotcha.
And then in '99, they built the NASCAR track. Got the first race in 2000, and I started in 2001.
Okay, that's it. I was off at college by then, so we would go to Millington to the air base for the air shows. Man, I have some fond memories of riding home from Millington with the window down, just exhausted and falling asleep in the station wagon. I think about that a lot with our kids now. I'm like, it brings back that nostalgia, seeing them fall asleep in the car. I wanted, and this is a good time to bring it up. I was wanting to ask this beforehand, but I didn't want to really ruin any kind of spontaneity. But it was also an odd thing to ask, because not knowing people's backgrounds, their upbringing, their situations sometimes, and just knowing like your position in your industry now and the I guess where you've gotten to. There's some people that you could categorize as self-made, and some people that kind of inherit things. And I feel like yours is way on the self-made side.
Yeah, I would say that's the case. I wasn't given anything other than an opportunity. And I thanked that CEO of that company. His name's Dennis McGlynn, Dover Motorsports. I've thanked him almost every year since then for giving me that opportunity. And thanked him many times for not getting rid of me in the first few years, because I made a lot of mistakes as a 25-year-old with 6 weeks experience running a NASCAR track for the first time. And, I think that I have had to work for everything that I've gotten in my career. Nothing was ever handed to me other than that first opportunity that I was given by that company. And I ended up spending 10 years with them, and it was a great career. I think it worked out for them. It worked out for me very well. And from then on, I've had to work, timing is everything. And I saw somebody make that comment in our chat room, and timing is absolutely everything. There've been several times in my career where, I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. And then something did come along, an opportunity. But I don't think any of those opportunities were ever given to me. I think I earned them from the previous role or the previous job or the things that I have done in our industry.
I wrestle with this personally, and it sounds like you probably in the same universe. The planning versus being prepared. I mean, not being lucky, and the timing and the just the fortune of everything is, you can't do anything about that. But if I had set out to do what I'm doing now, if you had set out to do what you're doing now, I don't know if we could have gotten there any faster or better or easier.
Couldn't agree more. I don't know that I could have achieved the things that I've achieved in my career if I had set out to do them. I think a lot of it was just organic, and it came from one position to the next and one opportunity to the next, and taking full advantage of every opportunity that I was given. And every time I got a new role or a new opportunity, I seized that to the best of my ability and tried to learn. I didn't go into things saying, "Oh, I know how to do this." I went into things saying, "That sounds like fun. I think I could do that, but I need to learn that." And so, a lot of what I've had to do in my career has been a lot of learning and a lot of listening. And those are the things that I didn't do very well as a 25-year-old general manager of a track.
Well, so you went from NASCAR, and seems like a logical shift to F1.
Well, it made a stop along the way in drag racing. So I was in Memphis for 10 years until 2009. I left there in 2009, moved to Palm Beach, Florida. So talk about culture shock. Moving from Memphis, Tennessee to Palm Beach, Florida was two different worlds. But was a great opportunity. I went to work for a group of private investors. Palm Beach International Raceway was their first project. But then over the course of about a 6-year period with them, I spent with those guys, we grew that company. We started with one little racetrack down in Palm Beach with about $3 million in revenue. And when I left 6 years later, we sold it to private equity, and we owned 7 racetracks, the IHRA, which is the drag racing sanctioning body, the International Hot Rod Association, with 2 international touring series, a television production company, and a print magazine. So we grew that company to about 11 different entities, ended up about $47 million in revenues in the last year before we sold it off. So that was a very aggressive 6-year time period for me. I'm not sure I slept much in that 6-year period. Traveled a lot. All 7 of those venues we had were all in different states. So I was on the road constantly. But we owned, from that company, we had drag racing, we had road course, we had dirt track, and those were from Palm Beach to Arizona to Maryland, all corners of the country. Yeah.
So that kind of connects and answers a question I was going to get to with the development of that company, and what you're talking about, the bigger picture. It's not just racing operations. It was the other entities under the umbrella that probably, it make the MooTV and the MSG strategies things make a lot more sense to me now, because I'm just reading it. It's like, okay, cell phone to NASCAR to F1 to racing and motorsports all around. That was the world. Then it's like this massive jump to music and events and with MooTV. How was it? You saying here, linking up with Scott Scoville, was that through Tom?
That was through Tom.
Okay.
Scott had hired Tom to place someone in this role as a general manager to run MooTV on a day-to-day basis. And, I had just started my company a year before. So I was a year into MSG strategy, had business going, was doing well, but got the call from Tom and, wasn't real sure at the very beginning. if it was something that was going to be the right opportunity for me or not, or even if I wanted a
Right.
full-time job. Do you remember those calls, Tom?
I sure do. Honestly, that placement's one of those that I am so proud of. I don't usually talk very openly about my placement work, but in this particular case, I am very proud of that one. And I know Scott is too.
So Tom, Scott had hired Tom to find someone for this position here. And, like I said, I wasn't real sure at the time. I was looking for something full-time, if I could handle something full-time with trying to grow MSG. But he said, just go meet with Scott and have a chat. And, I did. I came in and met with Scott, and I think we had an hour appointment, and 4 hours later, I walked out of the conference room. And it felt like a great opportunity. It felt right. We talked about MSG. So Scott knew that I had my own business out here. He knew that I was doing other things. And so he was completely open to that. He said, hey, just continue doing what you're doing. I think this is a great fit for you. I think it's a great opportunity. And so here I am, thanks to Tom.
And I'm familiar with Moo TV from when I was out with Billy Currington. We were opening up on tour for Brad Paisley. And so Moo was a big, client, or Brad was a big client of Moo's way back then, or early 2000s. But for anybody in the room that doesn't know what Moo is, can you give them a quick rundown?
Sure. Absolutely. I'd love to talk about Moo. Really, I became familiar with Moo when I was in Austin. You mentioned Formula One and Circuit of the Americas. And in addition to that racetrack and the US Grand Prix, we also had Austin 360 Amphitheater. So we did about 45, 50 shows a year there at the amphitheater on site at the racetrack in Austin. And so I saw Moo coming through there. Had no idea what they did. I just remember seeing the logo on all the cases rolling through. And I didn't know they did the LED or the cameras or the walls or any of those things. All I knew is that's kind of a weird logo, and why is it called Moo? And I see it on all the cases rolling through at the shows that I'm at. So I was familiar with the brand. I don't know that I was very familiar with what Moo TV does at that time until I met with Scott and started, until Tom called and I started researching it a little more and understood it. But, from doing those shows there, 40, 50 shows a year, Moo was through there probably on at least 50% of those shows. If they were country, more than likely Moo was on those shows coming through that amphitheater. And so I got to learn about the company when Tom made that call and started researching. And but what Moo, we're a full production video production company. We do everything from LED cameras, video walls, projection mapping, and just to simplify that for those that may not be familiar with the industry or the production, is when you go to a show, you see the video wall similar to the one behind me. You can see that's an LED wall. So if you go to see Brad Paisley, Garth Brooks, Jason Aldean, any number of our clients, those video walls that are behind those artists, as well as the side screens. So when you're sitting in the upper deck and can't see the artist on the stage and you're looking at the video on those side screens, those are our guys as well. So we provide those side screens, the cameras, the video walls, and we go out with the tours. So we don't necessarily work for the venues. The artists themselves hire us. So Brad Paisley hired us, Jason Aldean, Chris Stapleton, all of those folks hire us, and we go on those tours.
I was going to say the personal creative touches of the artists. I mean, I was like, why doesn't Ridgestone have a in-house tech team like that? But they would have to then learn and get cues. It's like, it'd be like giving a strange lighting director your cues and hoping the best for it. So that's cool. I'm learning something too. Everybody kind of, how competitive is that field in country music just in general?
Well, just in Nashville and country music, it's fairly competitive. I mean, there's 4 to 5 really strong competitors in the city that we're up against on most of the country tours. We're very fortunate at Moo TV that we have very little turnover in our clients. So once we get a client, they never leave us.
Gotcha.
Rarely. Can't say never. It has happened, but they rarely leave us. And usually sometimes, a business manager or somebody else may get involved and they, go somewhere else. It may be a little cheaper. We're definitely not the low cost alternative when it comes to LED. We know the product that we provide and the staff that we provide, and really our crew is what sets us apart from our clients. Apart from our competitors. Our clients love the crews because these people are part of their crew. They're part of their family. When we send 2, 3, 6, 8, however many guys we send out on a tour, they're out there with that tour and with that artist for the duration of their tour. Sometimes that's 2 to 3 months. Sometimes that's 8 or 9 months. They're
Yeah, so
riding on their buses, just like you.
yeah,
I mean, you're familiar with that world, being on the road.
yeah, you want your crew to be cool, and I mean, not your stereotypical roadies, you know, that kind of, you guys have done a good job of redefining that in the industry. It's not a rough and I don't want to say anything bad about tech or any rigging guys or stuff, but like, you can have a reputation, you know, as you're setting up events and things. It's like, who wants to live life on the road? But I mean, that's where some of my best friends, and
Right.
it's funny, the schedules that these tours keep, you probably know this as well as anybody else, the artists and the engineers and everybody that's on the bus, that's on the tour, they have such an odd schedule. So you'd be gone for 150 days a year with these guys, and you come back, and the only person in town that's keeping the same schedule as you is these other people. So it's like, you spend all your time away from home with them, and then you get back, it's like, I guess I should call Jimbo, you know. It's like, he's the only one that I know what he's up to.
Yeah.
That was always funny to me. So yeah, you do want cool people, and you also have the nice logo, like you said. It's built-in marketing. What is Moo TV? What is that? Why is that?
Yeah, it's a strange logo. It's a strange name, strange brand, but one that sticks, one that works. And it actually comes from the first tour that Scott worked on, or one of the first tours he worked on, Zoo TV. So instead of Zoo TV, he came up with the name Moo TV, and it's a very strange story, but we
No
probably
kidding.
don't have time to even get into all that. But it's, you know, he came up with that name based on some of the other roadies, what they would call him. You know, they would call him Zoo or Moo, and so he came up with the name back 28 years ago now, almost 30 years ago.
That's wild. So I love the connections and all these stories, and the U2. If I ever see Scott, I'll have to ask him about being on tour with U2.
He was the video director for U2.
That's
and
awesome.
That's where Moo TV name came from, was the U2 Zoo TV tour. Scott was the video director.
Wonderful Nashville trivia that you won't get anywhere else. So I want to get to, I guess, the thing I'm most excited about this conversation, which I would hope that a lot of people are as well. When they announced the Music City Grand Prix, it was one of my favorite texts to send, because I have a couple of group messages that are going, just all my guys that we don't get to hang out much, but it's the instant, like, everybody's trying to have the funniest picture, have the coolest news, have the sauciest gossip, whatever. This was like, it was a push send, and I knew I was going to be the winner for the day, because these are guys, and they'll spend their vacation days going to Snake Pit at Indianapolis 500 and saying, hey, this culture, this lifestyle is going to be not only in the area of Nashville, it's going to be drawn into the map of Nashville. So if anybody has not seen this announcement yet, I'll let you tell the details and paint that picture.
Yeah. And what the part you didn't share is you knew about it before the rest of the world knew about it. So that made it even cooler for you to be able to send that.
Yeah,
message.
just had it in my draft folder, right?
I did give Ward the heads up that, hey, we're about to make this announcement, and, you know, how can we get Whiskey Jam involved? Obviously, being a huge supporter of Whiskey Jam and all that Ward's done and has going with Whiskey Jam, we wanted that brand to be involved with the Music City Grand Prix. But, you know, it was a huge announcement for us. It was a huge announcement for not only Nashville, but for the industry. This is the first race that Roger Penske has added since buying IndyCar. And for those of you that may not know or even follow motorsports, Roger Penske purchased IndyCar in January of this past year, and we've been working on this race now for 3 years. So this is not something that we just came up with the idea for a few months ago and put together. When I left Circuit of the Americas in 2017, we started working on this race. I joined Matt Cruz, who had been working on it for probably about a year before I joined him. And then Chris Parker from Bridgestone Arena joined us. So the three of us have really been working on this race now for 3 years. And it took a while to get it put together.
I was wondering about that because it seems like something that might have just kind of popped up over a couple beers watching sports with your buddies or something. Like, it would be crazy. This had never happened, but imagine an IndyCar race through the streets of downtown Nashville.
That may have been how it originally started, but
Yeah.
but then after we got the idea and started working towards it, it was about a 3-year process to get all the parties involved and everyone involved. Obviously, we had to get the city on board.
Yeah.
Going through a few mayor changes in the last few years may have slowed our process slightly, because every time, we got a new administration on board, we changed mayors. So
Right.
we're on the third mayor now to approve this plan. So we had to get the city involved and on board, and then obviously with the Convention and Visitors Authority, we had to get Butch Spiriton on board. Butch has been a huge supporter of us from day one. And then the Tennessee Titans and Nissan Stadium. That was the one that was, I won't say a challenge, because it wasn't challenging. It was just difficult. They had a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. The time frame that we were given for this race, the city actually helped us choose the date. So we went to Butch and said, "What's the best time of the year for this?" Nashville is a huge event city. There are tons of events going on, as you know, Ward. So trying to find a date that the city could even accommodate an event of this size, that we had the hotel rooms available, we had the infrastructure available, that we could find a date that worked with IndyCar's schedule. So that took a while.
I can't imagine.
And the date that came back was the first week of August. That's what Butch said. This is a week that we need to fill a hole. There's not a lot going on. It's starting to get hot. People aren't back in school yet. Here locally, the kids aren't back in school. And something that, we may not have even thought about from the very beginning, but Butch said it's the beginning of the international holiday season. So that's their travel season when they're going on vacation. IndyCar is a very international sport. They wanted international tourists to come to the city. It's a big drive for the city and for the CVC. And so that got us before kids were back in school locally and a lot of areas of the U.S. It got in very beginning of the international travel and holiday season. And it was a week that was a little slow on the convention calendar and the major event calendar. So we had the hotel rooms to be able to accommodate it.
Right.
And so once we zeroed in on this week and we started working forward, and IndyCar said, yes, that week works, we had to work with the Titans to make sure it worked. And so with preseason football, with the Major League Soccer team playing at the stadium now, there were a lot of things to try to coordinate and align to make this date work. And so that took a good majority of the time. We had everyone on board with this concept and plan from the very beginning. And I will mention, from a financial standpoint, we didn't approach the city and ask for anything. When we approached the city, we said this will be self-funded from day one. We're not asking for city funds. We're not even asking for the city to fund, police and fire and overtime and traffic control and all those things. We will pay all of those things. So any improvements that are being made to the city streets, the build of the track course, all of those things that are costing money, we're funding all of those privately.
Huh. So where would you we deal in small events at the shows that we ever do, and it's one location dealing with their neighborhood or the local authorities just within those confines. I can't imagine the logistics of and the chain of command and where you even start when you're talking about using city roads and property, and then hundreds of private street fronts, and you're taking parking and access away from. What has the response been like on that front?
Well, we started very early on with reaching out to all the folks that we felt would be impacted by this race. The downtown partnerships, the downtown chamber, the East Nashville, the neighborhood associations, the Metro Council members for both of those areas, for downtown and East Nashville. And so really building champions of this event from day one and trying to address any issues that may come up, trying to be as proactive as possible and not reactive once someone was upset about something. And really, I think that's where we've seen the success, and we've seen everyone be on board and support this event, especially now with COVID shutting down the city for months. and months now, and who knows how long that'll even last. I think people were even more on board now to know that, we didn't just stop our progress. We didn't just say we're just going to wait and see what happens. We continued full speed ahead through COVID, through the pandemic, from the very beginning of it. We never slowed down. We said we're moving forward, and if at any means possible we can host this race in 2021, we're going to do that. And so I think just getting those partners on board from the very beginning and being proactive is really has kept a lot of the issues that could potentially come up, has kept them from arising just because of us doing that.
And so between the sponsors or the partners and the city, knowing the date that you were given, what is the hope and I don't know, any kind of limitations that are from COVID?
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking at?
Well, I mean, our hope all along has been that by this time next year, or by August of next year, we'll be at a very different place. The city will look different. Our country will look different. We will have found some, alternatives to this pandemic, whether that's a virus, a cure for this virus, or if it's just gone away. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the safety of our fans, of our drivers, of everyone at the event is our top priority and our number one priority. So if and when that time comes, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But right now we're moving forward as if the event will take place. We do
Gotcha.
have the plans in place. If we need social distancing, if we need to wear masks, if we need to group the fans in pods, similar to what Nissan Stadium is doing now. So we have all those plans in place and they're ready to implement. We have 3 versions of a budget built. We have a budget where we have the full, 105,000 people over 3 days. We have a plan that's 50% of that if we have to go to social distancing. And we have a plan that's, very minimal fans, not necessarily a 0, but a 10 to 12% fan base of actually being in attendance. And, we can run the race on any of those scenarios because this is not a one and done. This is not our investors and the group behind us are not in this to let's put this race on for 1 year and see how this happens, see how this goes. They're committed to it long term. They're committed to it for 3 years. So the race will happen for 3 years, regardless of how year one goes. It's a multi-year agreement.
Okay. For my own personal edification, what is the origin of Grand Prix? Obviously French.
European, yeah.
Okay. What does it mean? How does it differ from, how did it come about?
Well, Grand Prix typically just refers to an open wheel type of race car, and it can be typically it's a road race or a road course race, not necessarily an oval race.
Okay.
But the Grand Prix refers to more the type of the car, with the open wheel type of car,
Okay.
Indy type car.
Where does this happen in America?
The other events where street courses in metropolitan cities take place are St. Petersburg, Florida, Long Beach, California, Detroit on Belle Isle, and Toronto. So those are the cities that we are basing our plans on and looking to utilize their operational plans for our event.
Nothing against any of those cities, but this is probably the most active, like tourist driven city out of that group, I would think. It's not installing. We're in a different world when you're dealing with a city that has the Titans and country music in general and CMA Fest, where we're welcoming and wanting these tens and hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, millions a year. This is a different ballgame. Long Beach is not in that same world, so it's gonna be huge for us.
Right. I think that's really what sets this event apart from some of those other cities. Is we have that tourism base already built in. Nashville is already a destination city, and again, nothing against any of those other cities. There are plenty of things in those other cities that people are going to that city for. It's not necessarily they're going to them every day of the year, so. We feel like we've got a huge fan base already built in with the tourists that are coming to Nashville for country music, or football or soccer or CMA or whatever it may be, we feel like we've got a built-in fan base. And really what's going to be different for this event than some of the others is, Detroit is on Belle Isle. It's an island off of, it's not in the downtown scenario. Long
Okay.
Beach is not necessarily in a downtown area. St. Pete is on the water, but not necessarily in the middle of a downtown tourist destination. And so that's really what sets us apart is the walkability, the number of hotel rooms. You're not going to need a car when you come to this event. You come, you stay
Right.
downtown, you walk across the pedestrian bridge, and you're at the track. And so
Okay.
that's really what's going to set this event apart.
That's going to be so fun. Just the reasons that people like to go to Nashville existing alongside this attraction is going to be insane, because imagine the people that, I mean, what you're talking about, the international audience that might have wanted to visit Nashville before, never really had a reason. Now they've got the sport that they love, like perfect combination. I can't think of anything in my hobbies or likes that I would have not gone and done yet, but like it's going to be a massive combination of industry.
It is, and really that's been our plan from day one is to try and combine all those things, really to plan an event and then almost step out of the way and just let Nashville do what Nashville does best, and that's throw a great party and host tourists and make sure they're going away with a great time in our city, and really that's what's most important for us for this year one. Yes, the racing on track is why we're having the event, but that's not the most important part of the event. The most important part is to make sure that, everyone that comes to this event has a great time and goes away saying great things about the city and our event. And so some of the things that we may be doing different from other events or this event in other cities is, we are limiting the number of fans. So not because of COVID reasons or pandemic reasons, just because we want to make sure we can accommodate the number of fans that are going to be on the property.
Right.
So Titans on a game day are 65 to 68,000 fans. That's what that property is comfortable with accommodating from a food and beverage standpoint, from an ingress, egress standpoint, from a infrastructure standpoint, and from a staffing standpoint. So Nissan Stadium is a partner with us on this event, so they're going to be providing all of the staff. So the same staff that's working the stadium on game day are the same staff that are going to be working our event. And so we wanted to limit the number of fans to around the same number that staff and that team is used to accommodating and showing a great time and taking care of on game day. And so for Sunday, for race day, our biggest day of the event, we're going to be limiting to around 65,000.
Okay.
That number will be around 30 on Saturday and probably 15 or so on Friday. So it is a 3-day event with on-track activity and music every night. Obviously, being in Nashville, music is going to be a huge part of it. But we'll have about 105,000 to 110,000 over the 3 days.
Okay. That's and I'm just kind of speaking casually about it, but the talk that we've heard the last few years about as the city's grown, there's been just a logical conversation of Super Bowl potential, in the city, and as it's become such a national or international destination. And I mean, I'm looking out my window here at the cranes, the dozens of cranes in the downtown area, building the ability to host an event like that. You guys are in a great spot to kind of broaden the perspective as far as like, it's not just the stadium on Sundays and that's all we do. It's how can you kind of blend these things and create a weekend event. I think it's gonna be awesome for the city to see that in kind of a trial and I don't want to say error, just a trial phase. Because I mean, that's ultimately for Nashville, events like this are gonna, I mean, that might be even more unique than a Super Bowl, because obviously there's one every year and it kind of hops around to the different cities, but this is going to be a once in a very unique event for the nation.
Yeah, I think you hit it, hit the nail on the head there. It's definitely going to be a unique event. It's going to be a unique event for this city, for Nashville, but also for IndyCar. IndyCar is very excited about coming to Nashville. They're very excited about this event. Nashville's been a target market for them for a few years. For those that may not know, IndyCar did race here at the Nashville Super Speedway out in Lebanon for a few years. That another fun fact, that track was actually owned by Dover Motorsports, the same company that owned the Memphis track that I was at. So I was at all of those races here in Nashville. The entire 10 years I was in Memphis.
That's a cool property.
I was at every event here at that facility as well, because we were owned by the same company.
What's going on out there right now?
They're bringing NASCAR back next year, so racing will be back out at at the Super Speedway next year.
That's awesome. That's gonna be fun.
It will.
So what are what can an average attendee look forward to as far as experience package wise? We talked about it a little bit before we came on air, but for me and my guys in the group message, like, what's going to be a day in the weekend of the Grand Prix?
Yeah, so it's a 3-day event. Friday is going to be, we're calling it Freedom Friday. So Friday is really a tribute to our troops and first responders. We'll have a concert on Friday. Bring a lot of troops down from Fort Campbell up in Clarksville, my hometown, and all the military installations around us. We'll be bringing a lot of military out for Friday. So Friday on track will be practice for the IndyCar, practice for our support series, which we haven't announced yet. That's another announcement that's going to be coming soon. What race series is going to be racing with IndyCar. So it's not just IndyCar on track. There'll be some sports cars on track as well.
Oh, cool.
And then Friday, we're going to kind of end it early. So Friday night, 6:00-ish, we'll be done. And then we're going to allow the people to enjoy and go downtown. Saturday, again, on track, practice. We'll have IndyCar qualifying. And then Saturday night, we're going to end the night with a full race of the sports car series, and then a headline concert, headline country artist, and then a fireworks show. And then on Sunday is just race day. So Sunday, we're going to start the day off with a church service and a worship artist on stage. So another concert on Sunday morning. Every day of the event, there'll be live music on the stages. And then Sunday's race day for the IndyCar. And then we'll see what Sunday night's gonna be. We keep talking, Ward, about Whiskey Jam being the official after party. So
right,
we haven't talked much about Whiskey Jam. So for those that are on this that don't know what Whiskey Jam is, you need to share a little about Whiskey Jam.
Right. That's going to be incredible. The weekend as a whole, but the focus on entertainment, I mean, that's going to set the event apart, I feel like, from anybody else that's doing anything similar to it in the 4 other locations that do it. That's really going to be incredible to see. And yeah, if we can however we can be involved, we're going to make this the coolest application of Whiskey Jam. We've done some things at our Windy City Smokeout and Bonnaroo and smaller installations, I guess you would call them, in out of town events. But for what we do here, anyone that's unfamiliar, there's a little bar about 7 minutes away from my office in Midtown. You could really truly throw a Frisbee at Music Row and hit songwriters. That was a little dive bar, and we would hang out there and watch sports on Sundays. The songwriters would come in there and have a beer after they finished writing their songs. And we just, in all honesty, when football season ended, we were hanging out there every Sunday. We're like, we still want to hang out at Winners. I don't want to give my hang up. Is there something we can do? And so we approached the owner and said, hey man, if you cover our bar tab, we'll bring in a bunch of our friends and play some music, pass the guitar around, see what happens. And so very naturally, organically grew out of that. And from the first night, it just happened at the time. Our friends, our drinking buddies, and it's no different than anybody that's out there doing it right now, fast forward 10 years. But when we were getting started, it was myself and Josh Hogue, and our buddies were the Brett Eldridges and the Kip Moores and the Lady A's and David Nails and up and coming songwriters. So through the years, we just kind of evolved, or through the months, I guess, after we started, it evolved into a more structured event where it wasn't just a bunch of guys passing the guitar around. We started scheduling and got into this world where it was such a fun, natural response to a kind of artificial, a manufactured routine of the writers' nights that we were used to going to in town. You go to some, and there's a place for respect and a place for attention to the song and the craft and the writer, and there's also a place for fun and having a good time with it. And the challenge on that we kind of faced from the very beginning was a rowdy bar crowd that you had to kind of either entertain or it was a gong show almost. So it was a fun challenge. We started attracting people of that initial caliber and beyond, getting the Maren Morrises and the Casey Musgraves, and I mean the list goes on. Chris Young, it's Luke Combs, Thomas Rhett, Chris Stapleton, so many household names that it got kind of comical how commonplace it was. And at this point, we're in a total refresh mode. We'd gotten to 9th anniversary in January, one of our biggest nights ever. The bar has been added on to half a dozen times to accommodate more people. They're kind of stretched to the limit on the property. And then a month after our anniversary, we said, something's not right. Like we can't, I don't know if this is going to be able to continue much longer. And about 2 weeks later, everything just zipped out. So it's been unique for sure this year, having that full pause. We switched over to some online events and took our audience on a much more intimate format on Instagram Live, which was fun, but you miss that camaraderie, that just being the electricity of being in the room. And we've recently been able to restart with, like I was saying, the protocol in place of safety is number one. It's been really, really cool just in 2 weeks, seeing the response of people who have been missing that feeling, that sensation. You used to have a lot of turnover at Winters. You'd have people come in, get a couple of beers, they'd be gone, they would have their place taken. This is like, they're there when I get there, and they stay the entire night until we kick them out. It's like the hunger for this event has increased, and I think allowed us to do more of a reset, getting back to our roots, the things I talked about, how it began, how it started out as just friends getting together to share songs and a good time with each other, is going to be more alive and well now than it has been in the last 3 or 4 years, I would think. Of course, we can't wait to get back to hopefully the heyday and the outdoor shows that we were doing with you guys. But
I can't wait either.
Man, yeah, it was a slow summer. It's funny, I was talking about this a lot last night. I feel like a lot of people, I was very guilty of settling into a routine, especially with the kids home from school and nothing for them to do. It's summer. We would wake up, cook breakfast, hang out in the yard, play whatever, and a lot of cooking going on. And then at the end of the night, you get the kids in bed, sit on the sofa, be on your phone. And I never had a sense of satisfaction. I was missing something. It was like scrolling your Instagram and shopping for mindless stuff on Amazon, and never really like fulfilled. And I say last week when I got home from the show, I pulled my car in the driveway and I was like, that's it. That's what I was missing. That was the feeling in my gut of like calmness from having done that thing that was so ingrained in my routine and my experience for the last 9 years. It was finally back, and man, it kind of struck me. I was like, okay, this isn't just an event that we do and it's something we'll have to pivot and figure out what's next. This is a part of my life specifically, and a lot of other people's routines that we're just gonna have to figure out a way to get it back up and running. It's been a nice break, but ready to figure it. Yeah,
Absolutely. I love the Whiskey Jam events, and I have a great time when I go to them. And I had a great time before I was helping you produce the outdoor ones. But I love those outdoor shows, and they're a great time. But I think as large as the events have become, I think the Whiskey Jam brand has become, maybe even bigger than the actual events, from an online standpoint, from a branding standpoint. The merch, the hats, that's how Ward first knew my name. I was ordering Whiskey Jam hats before he ever knew me, before we ever met. But you see the artists. I see a lot of our clients' artists that are wearing Whiskey Jam hats. I wear Whiskey Jam hats on the road. So you see the brand everywhere across the country. And really that's what's, even more impressive than the events that you've produced, and what you've created with Whiskey Jam is a full brand and a lifestyle.
I think I've done a lot of thinking about this stuff recently, kind of evaluating what we can do. I mean, looking at business options of, okay, if we're not able to do what we were living off of before, what else is out there? And there's a lot of groups that put on events, and there's a lot of groups that make merchandise, and there's a lot of groups that have media online to consume. I feel like the thing that has separated us, and it's just been kind of our theme all along, is the integrity to the industry and the community. It's building, it's not critical, it's as welcoming as anything I've ever been to. I strive to make it as comfortable for my parents to enjoy as it is for a new kid in town to sit in the same room. Nobody's ever been just flat out denied the chance to play on Whiskey Jam stage, and that works and flourishes all the way up to the top. It's recognized. I'm not out here. Yeah, I want to sell a million hats. That'd be fun. I'm fine with that. But at the same time, if I don't know, doing things for the real right reason has been the thing that's got us where we are and kept the name respectable, and not we're capitalizing on making the most of situations, of course, but not just squeezing every dime and dollar out of it and trying to angle, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're putting on a free show that people are playing for free, and we're working our butts off to sell enough beer to really make it sustainable. And it wouldn't be any fun. It wouldn't have that same Nashville heartbeat feel if you were charging a cover and you were having to figure out how to chop up the door and all different numbers for all the players and whatever. And then it's like, who's worth more than the other? It's like, I think it's a total, all are welcome, all are equal. The music's going to tell the story of who is the champion, I guess, at the end of the day. The crowd's going to pick their favorites. That's part of the fun. But for what we're doing, it really is just trying to build up, bring people together. And especially in a place where we're talking about international visitors, if you're in town from Switzerland and you wanted to see some country music, but you didn't want to feel uncomfortable, we've created an environment of a really insider Nashville thing that you can participate in, whether you are, like I said, just put your pencil down at the songwriting house, or you're getting off the plane from overseas. It's like everybody's cool, centered around the music and the real spirit. And I just it's what we were talking about earlier. I can't make plans. I can't have a 10-year, 5-year plan really within what we're doing, because I want to ride that wave of the people and the music and the spirit of everything. So yeah.
Well, I think you've definitely ridden the wave very well, and come a long way with Whiskey Jam, and even new this year. We know we've all speak of how we've pivoted, and I wouldn't say this was a pivot for you, because you started with Apple Music back in 2019 before COVID. But just in August, just a few months ago, I know Apple Music launched, and you're one of 4 anchors, I believe, on Apple Music Country. So that's you've got a daily radio show on Apple Music, the Ward Guenther Show. So be sure to talk about that a little, so everybody can know where to check you out and listen to your interviews on a daily basis.
Yeah, thank you. It's been very cool. A very timely pivot for sure, giving me something to focus on and look forward to really through this year. But launching it, we're at the point now, it's a 24-hour radio station. It's in your pocket. If you have an Apple device or computer, it's free. Great content hosted by the 4 anchors, and then a ton of artist-led programming, which would be your FGL, Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, Luke Bryan, Carrie Underwood, Kelsey Ballerini, you name it. I mean, they shot for the moon and have these artists hosting shows. So it's in a world of digital consumption is a very analog feel. That's kind of how I've been terming it. You know, the algorithms work. They work. You know, what you listen to, it helps you find more stuff like that. And it's been a revolution for the industry. But at the same time, we've lost some of that magic of the DJ, of the guided tour,
Right.
you know. And so that's where I've come in with the experience and the level of expertise that I've developed through Whiskey Jam, and just being around that much music for that long has put me in a great spot to say, hey, international audience from 165 countries, you probably don't know about this guy because I just found out about him and I work in this every single day. Let me help you. And to do this the same spirit as Whiskey Jam, it's like, I'm not out there trying to be better than anybody else or say, look what I found. You know, this is your insider tip. Like, it's sharing, man. It's music should be fun. And Apple is an incredible business and spirit and ethos, and just the whole what they're putting into the universe in that space is it's just a magnified example of what we're trying to do on a small scale at Whiskey Jam. Just do the right things for the right reasons, for the betterment of the community and the people. And it's like, as soon as it's a turbo, man, your exhaust fuels the engine. Like, you can't lose. So things are going great. And
Awesome.
yeah, if anybody, I'm on every morning at 9 a.m. and we have a blast showing people new music.
You know, I live here and I'm in the industry and I'm right here in town and I still learn new stuff from listening to your show. So I love it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of yours, Ward, a fan of Whiskey Jam. And, you know, this has been fun today. So, you know, Tom, thank you for the opportunity, for allowing us both to come on and chat, and just, you know, two buddies just having a chat and a conversation. And it's been a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Well, right on. Back at you both. This has been very inspiring. A lot of the chat comments are patting you guys on the back for being visionaries. And again, Jason, I am just in awe of the whole Music City Grand Prix. That is going to be such an exciting event. And I didn't realize it was a 3-year deal. That's even better.
Yeah, it's guaranteed 3 years. You know, we hope to go longer. You know, Long Beach is in 40 plus years, you know, Toronto 20 plus years. So, you know, we're looking well beyond the 3 years, but the initial plan is a 3-year event, a 3-year agreement with IndyCar, 3-year agreement with the Nissan Stadium, and 3-year agreement with the city. So we know for sure we're going to be here 3 and hopefully well beyond.
Jason for mayor.
No, thank you.
So to the audience, thank you for coming today. We certainly appreciate your support. These guys are inspiring to me and to you, and I really appreciate their time. Final word, as we do these every Tuesday and Thursday, I'll be on next week, and details will be coming out very shortly about that. In the meantime, stay healthy, be nice to one another, and vote on November 3rd. See you soon, folks.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks so much, guys.